Drake's Cutter series of starships aims to give a springboard for players as they start their journey in Star Citizen, and the Scout variant chooses to focus on scanning gameplay. As things stand in game currently, that seems an interesting choice. I'm Forrester, and this video will review the currently flyable Drake Cutter Scout, which is described on the Star Citizen website as a reconnaissance/intelligence ship. This review is based on ship performance in Star Citizen Alpha 4.1. If you've seen other ship reviews on this channel, then you'll be right at home with this video, which follows the usual format. It's split into 5 sections, starting with a ship tour, assessing combat performance, reviewing handling and visibility, looking at the operating costs and profitability, before finally summarising. As always, I've included timestamps in the video description in case you want to skip ahead. And if you're one of the many people watching who isn't yet subscribed to the channel, you might consider that so that you can be notified of future Star Citizen videos on the channel. And we'll start the tour of the Cutter Scout by just doing a little walk around of the exterior. This is in the default paint model colour scheme. At the rear is a ramp which is deployed by 2 buttons, and on either side the engine modules are clearly visible. Those buttons to open the ramp are on either side, port and starboard. Heading up inside takes you into the rear cargo bay. In this case, I've filled the 2 SCU cargo grid with 2 SCUs of storage, but clearly there's a lot more than that visible. To close the cargo ramp, there's a button only on the starboard side, and there are some small windows to look out the back. There's some component access hidden behind some yellowy-orange beams, and that includes, in this case, a relay fuse box. And there's other components on the side. On the front starboard side of this rear section is an engineer station. It does kind of work in-game, but clearly not for the scanning gameplay that it's intended for, but seeing another little cool moving map is always fun. And those are the 2 SCUs of cargo grid. Clearly a lot more space in the rear for cargo. In the midsection we enter the habitation room. Much like the other cutters, there is a bed on the starboard side, as well as some inventory storage access. Across the way on the port side there are some decorative elements, and then an enclosed bathroom with its own door and buttons inside to open and close it. There is a toilet that can open, but it's a little bit sticky, if that's the right word to use, so sometimes getting it to actually open can be a pain. Of course, it doesn't want to work when I'm giving a tour of the ship. Moving to the front of the Cutter Scout, we enter into the cockpit section. There's the main seat which travels up into the actual cockpit itself. Then on the starboard side there are some weapons racks, and on the port side some more component access. Much like some of the other Drake ships, hopping into the pilot seat is on a little bit of an elevator which takes you up into the window of the cockpit. As a starter ship, the Cutter Scout is not particularly well armed compared to a dedicated fighter, but in true Drake style does hit harder than you might expect. The Scout is equipped with 2 size 2 gimbals, equipped by default with Badger repeaters. It's not Avenger Titan level of firepower, but it is in the same ballpark as an Aurora or Mustang, for example. Additionally, the Scout carries 2 size 2 missiles, which can pack quite a punch against the smallest of targets. Defensively, the Scout is protected by a single size 1 shield generator, which means that taking any level of sustained fire puts the ship under pressure quickly. Altogether, that means the Cutter Scout can probably complete the most basic of combat missions, but will really struggle against larger ships or dedicated fighters. As a starter ship, that's probably okay, since more of the focus is on experiencing the gameplay loop rather than maining it, but those interested in combat would probably need to jump to something more heavy hitting or durable. Looking out to the front of the cutter affords good visibility, and out to the sides can be okay depending on whether the canopy armour is deployed. In terms of handling, the Scout feels much like the base cutter, which is to say a little sluggish but not terrible. The SCM limiter defaults to 180 meters per second, which feels fast enough, and at those speeds judicious application of boost is needed to avoid too much drift through heavy turns. As with others in the series, the Scout comes equipped with VTOL thruster modules, which toggle 90 degrees downwards to give the cutter extra vertical lift. That said, as at patch 4.1, that's not a particularly useful feature as yet. In nav modes, the Scout will top out at just over 1000 meters per second, which isn't the fastest, but also not overly slow. The stock quantum drive is not great, but the range is sufficient to be able to cross most of Stanton on a single tank before needing to refuel. Things get a little more constrained in Pyro, where planning some refuel stops might be wise. Running costs for the Cutter Scout are fairly cheap, with repair, refuel and rearming usually costing in the thousands to low 5 figures of Alpha UEC. The most expensive cost is usually restocking the missiles. In terms of making money, there are a few options available. Whilst the onboard cargo grid is only 2 SCUs, physically there is a lot more space available in the back, meaning it's usually possible to complete extra small hauling contracts in a single hop. There's also room for a ground vehicle in the back, like an ATLS Geo for some enterprising miners to use the Scout as a ferry ship, and there's no shortage of other internal space for passenger transportation either, if you're feeling quite trustworthy of other players. Whilst not a combat ship, the Cutter Scout can complete lower order combat contracts, although it does feel much tougher than doing so with a dedicated fighter. By way of upgrades, my personal view would be to leave the Scout as stock, as it would likely be more of a stepping stone to something bigger rather than a permanent home. That said, a case could be made for equipping some stealth components for those hoping to avoid the heat of battle. The whole Cutter series is about giving you bang for your buck. Starter ships with different flavouring that all give a good baseline to be able to experience different things in-game. And the Cutter Scout does that. It's cheap, can introduce players to some different gameplay loops, and includes conveniences such as a bed and living space and rear cargo bay that can accommodate ground vehicles. It has a moderately quick claim timer at just under 4 minutes, expedited to just over 1 minute, and there are the little touches that give the ship personality, like all the manual cockpit buttons and being able to deploy the canopy armour. It has no real in-game impact, but makes the ship feel more of a home. What makes the Scout more unique compared to the others in the Cutter lineup is the large radome atop the ship, which signals that the Scout is for finding things. It's evocative of the rotodomes that might be found on contemporary AWACS aircraft. The challenge is that as of Star Citizen 4.1, there's not a lot of point to it. Dedicated scanning gameplay has remained on the wishlist for many players for some time, but to no avail as yet. Likewise, the inclusion of an engineer terminal at the rear of the ship could be a boon in the future, but currently doesn't serve much by way of a useful purpose. Thankfully, at an in-game price of just over 700,000 Alpha UEC, it's not a particularly expensive ship. Even on the store, the $45 to $50 price tag makes it one of the cheaper options out there. The challenge really is that the base cutter is cheaper, and aside from some minor differences in the missile set by default, does everything the Scout currently does just as well. But also, for those looking to spend that little bit more, the Rambler is a much more compelling option in-game right now, as it extends the range of the ship quite considerably. So, for now, the verdict has to be, unless the AWACS radome particularly appeals to you, probably skip this one in favour of the base model or the Rambler. Sorry, little Scout. But what do you think of the Cutter Scout? I look forward to reading your thoughts in the video comments. If you enjoyed this video, you might press the like button to help me understand what videos to make more of in future, and if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, you might like to do that too, so that YouTube knows to show you more videos like this in future. But otherwise, and as always, thank you for watching.